What's up, guys? So recently I helped one of my students that I did one-on-one mentoring with in 3 months take their business from 35K a month to 70K a month in MRR. It was a tutoring center, a physical tutoring center. And the craziest part about that story is that it didn't really come with any major increases to his overhead. So a lot of that was actually profit. Not only that, but he said to me, I'd love to not have to work in my business every single day. Now he's completely outside of the business and just focuses on working on it. And he's freed up a lot of his time. So how was I able to do that? I mean, is that really possible? I can understand your skepticism. Is it really possible? Can you really make that happen? I mean, if you've got an agency at the moment or a service-based business and you're at that 10, 15, 20, 30, 40K mark and you've realized you've been a bit stuck and you're working hard and putting in a lot of hours, you feel like you're just running around in circles, nothing's actually growing. It's likely because you don't have these three departments that I'm going to share with you locked in and solid within your business. And quite frankly, from my own experience and from working with different people and helping them grow their business, I've realized that many people actually overcomplicate growing your business. And the majority of the time, you're actually spending it doing activities and tasks that don't move the needle forward. So let's break down what these three departments are. And then I'm going to break down each department and pretty much share with you what you should be focused on. And by the end of this video, you're going to walk away with a lot more clarity and you're going to know where your priority, where you need to be essentially prioritizing your time and energy. This video won't be edited. It's more like a whiteboard session. So bear with me as we go through it. There'll be mistakes here and there, but the value in information will be worthwhile. So department number one is client acquisition, first and foremost, okay? Department number two, I mean, I don't really have a name for it, but let's go client retention. This can actually be broken up. Retention, success, so the success of your clients. It could be, case studies, getting reviews, testimonials. This could be include fulfillment. So it's essentially fulfillment. Essentially what happens after a customer comes into your business, what takes place there. And then the last department is systems of scale. Now, not only do you need to understand these three departments in scaling your business, but you also need to understand what takes priority. See, and you'll probably be able to relate to this, but where the majority of you go wrong is you either get caught up working on systems of scale too soon, or you end up putting all your time and energy in perfecting the product or service that you're going to put out in the market, rather than actually focusing on the thing that matters the most at the beginning, and that is just client acquisition. And I know that it can come across as counterintuitive to spend the majority of your time actually focused on acquiring customers rather than on building that perfect product, because you've heard, building the product is the most important thing and you need to be able to deliver results for your clients and your customers, and the better your product, the better your business, and all of these things are true. But the actual problem is you will never be able to build the perfect product if you don't have customers. That's just the harsh reality. And if you end up making adjustments to your product and service and that's on the back of feedback from, say, a couple customers, then you're not going to really have enough data to know what that would look like at scale. So an example is you could take on 3 new clients as an agency in a particular niche and realize, they're all complaining. All of them complain about a particular thing. Like, let's say 2 of them say, oh, your leads are bad quality, right? So then because you got that feedback, you then try to do 1,000,001 things to try and fix this lead quality issue. And so now you're working on fixing your lead quality issue through increasing, how many questions you put on the form before someone inquires, things along those lines, right? But if you had 10 clients, you'll then be like, oh wait, hold on a second. Why are my 4 clients over here actually not complaining about that and actually closing deals and making money? And then you compare the clients and you go, wait, actually, these clients over here have systems to call leads quickly, and they actually have a pre-existing sales system to close deals, whereas these guys are a bit newer and don't have these systems, and they're not good at sales. And then you realize, wait, it actually wasn't a lead quality problem, it's a sales problem. So what you should have actually been putting your attention on is attracting customers that already have pre-existing sales systems, so they convert the leads you're generating, or investing your time into building out a sales program to provide your customers with a sales framework so everyone closes deals. Do you see how with more customers, you would have now made a better decision in actually fixing and building a better product? That's the point here. If you do not take on enough clients and you're not constantly bringing on new customers, you're not going to have the opportunity to get enough feedback, and realize if the feedback is consistent across the board, to then make the right move and to improve the product. Not only that, not only do you need to do that at the beginning, but you need to constantly be bringing on new clients, even if your product's not perfect, because every time you make a change, you then need not only old customers, but new customers to trial the product, to then give you feedback, to then make another adjustment. If you run an agency, you would know that it's really hard to reset expectations with old customers. So for example, let's say you do lead generation and there's a customer who you've been generating leads for the last 6 months, and you never talked about sales training. They're constantly complaining about lead quality, and you've always just been making improvements to your lead quality. Then you build out this sales program and you go to them and you say, hey, we've realized it's not really a lead quality problem. It's a sales issue. They're going to tell you to go F yourself. Like straight up, they're just going to be like, nah, it's your leads. It's your fault. It's your problem. Because no expectations were set. So you're never really going to be able to tell if this new thing that you're going to add is going to work for your existing clients, because the expectations are already done. The relationship's a bit soured. They're stuck in their ways. So the only way to test it is you bring on new clients who go through your new product as if it's what it always was. So for example, there was a transitionary period where I built out a complete sales program for my clients in the renovations niche, and I helped them essentially close more deals. And I had this issue where I couldn't convince my old customers to do the sales training, but then all the new clients who came on, they thought that's just what they had to do to get started with us, and so they did it, and then they started producing results. So that's when I was able to then get feedback based on the sales training and keep constantly improving it. But the point is here is you need to make sure you have this sorted first and foremost. Okay. So if you're not growing at the moment, or if you're struggling, you're taking 2 steps forwards, 3 steps back, and you're kind of going around in circles, it's most likely because you haven't actually spent the majority of your time sorting out these departments in order, and then laying the foundations on top of each other to start growing and scaling. So first and foremost, you need to make sure you've got your client acquisition sorted. You've got money coming in, oxygen coming into your business, new customers every single month, predictably and consistently, and in a scalable manner. Then once these customers come in, that's when once you've built a system where it's predictably bringing on customers, that's when you put your energy into actually reducing your churn rate, building your product, taking on feedback, making adjustments to your service constantly over and over again. And then once you get to a point where you're bringing on new customers, and then those customers aren't churning at the rate at which they were before, you're then going to start having scale issues where you're going to grow very quickly, and then you're going to fall into your new set of problems, and that is not having the systems of scale. Like the student that I was mentioning to you before, he had a client acquisition problem, and we solved that. And then he had a churn problem, and then we solved that. And then once those two things were solved, it was like instantly the next month he took on new clients and he wasn't losing clients. And then he quickly realized, holy shit, I'm struggling to keep up with everything going on here. And then that's when his systems really started to get strained. And then we started focusing on actually building out his systems of scale. So these are the 3 departments you need to focus on in your business. And when you wake up every day, you need to write these out or have them in front of you. And you need to hold yourself accountable to make sure that what you worked on today in your to-do list for the day is in order of priority for what you need to sort out in your business. And I don't know what that is for you, but I'll be able to find that out very quickly. So let's start with department number 1, okay? Let me scroll. How do I scroll down here? Oh, there we go. So let's go department number 1, client acquisition. If you want to know whether or not you have client acquisition, your client acquisition department sorted, you pretty much need to ask yourself, there's like a couple boxes that need to be ticked. So let's draw boxes here. So the first box that needs to be ticked is predictability. Second box, consistency. Call consistently. And then the third box, scale. I don't even know if this is a word, but at scale, scalably. Okay. So before you're able to predictably get new customers every single month and consistently do it, predictably means you can say, I'm going to get 5 new customers, you can predict it and you can get it. And you can do it consistently month on month. And then you can do it at scale, meaning you go, okay, I'm going to go from 5 clients to 10 clients next month, and you make that happen. You do not have your client acquisition department sorted, and you need to focus on it. So classic example of a business that doesn't have this sorted is a business that relies on word of mouth and referrals. There is no predictability, there is no consistency, and there is absolutely no scalability. And as a result, you do not have a department of client acquisition sorted. You need a channel that you've built, that you've refined over time, that can predictably get you customers and consistently does that month on month, and also has systems set up so that it can be done at scale. So let me give you an example of what this could look like. One of the students that I recently took on that we're looking to scale now to 50K a month and beyond, he's at around that 25K mark, and he has gotten there just on the back of sending Instagram DMs. Okay. So he chose one channel, which by the way is all you need to get to 50 to 100K a month, especially in the agency game. He just chose one channel, right? And these channels could be paid ads, cold DMs, LinkedIn, cold emails. You just have to choose one channel. His channel was Insta DMs. Okay. And he chose Instagram DMs. Now, when he came to me, he was at a point where he was getting students, and it was kind of predictable. And he managed to do it at scale. But when I sat with him and I said, okay, show me your metrics. What are your percentages? What's your reply rate? Your link sent rate, booking link sent rate? What's your booking percentage rate? What is your qualification percentage? What is your cost per booked call roughly? And then what is your show rate? And then what is your close rate? All of these numbers that I asked for, he didn't have. And because you don't have that, it's impossible to have predictability, and it's impossible to have scalability. Honestly, it's impossible to have all of this stuff. So you may actually have a system that you've been using to get clients, like running paid ads or outreach, but you don't actually have a way to predictably do it and to do it at scale. So what does it look like when you're, say, doing Instagram DMs and you can do it at scale? Okay. Well, the first thing, I should have even added one more thing here, profitably, that you can profitably do it, meaning you're putting $1 in, you're getting $3 out, how that goes, right? You don't want to be losing money having to acquire customers. So let's say take Instagram DMs, for example, and then after this, I'll use paid ads. So this is how you have a predictable, consistent, scalable, and profitable way of generating customers in your business. Let's say you do Instagram DMs. Let's say you send out 1,000 DMs, okay? For every 1,000 DMs that you send, you get a 20% response rate, okay? 20% response. Now that 20% response means out of 1,000 DMs, you get 200 replies. Now from those 200 replies, right, we go, okay, we managed to book 10%. of them into a booked call, right? So 20 calls. And then out of those 20 calls, we have an 80% show. 80% show, 16 calls. And then let's say you have a 20% close. So let's just say roughly 3 clients. Okay. All right, perfect. If you know with absolute certainty that if you send 1,000 DMs, you get a 20% response, 200 replies, 10% bookings, 80% show rate, 16 calls, and 3 new clients. Now you have a system that is predictable, especially if you can do this month on month. Now you have a system that's consistent. Then you'd ask yourself, if I send 2,000 DMs, will that lead to 6 clients? And if the answer is yes, now you have a system that is scalable. And then I'd ask you, how much does it cost you to send these 1,000 DMs and to go throughout this process to get 1 client? And if that cost per acquisition is profitable, then it's profitable. So for example, if it costs you 3K to send 1,000 DMs and have 1,000 conversations, that's how much your setter charged you, for example. It means you spend 3 grand, you have 1,000 DMs, and then that ends up with 3 clients. And so every client costs you $1,000. And you're selling a 2.5K a month service. And so just from month 1, you're already at a 2.5x ROI, not including lifetime value. Now, you know, you have something that's profitable as well. But see, let's say you've got this system in place, but then you decide, okay, I'm going to send 2,000 DMs instead, right? Let's say I'm going to change this to 2,000 DMs. Now, if after I change it to 2,000 DMs, this doesn't lead to 6 new clients, and instead it leads to only 3 clients again, or you can't even message 2,000 people a month, or there isn't enough people out there to message, or whatever it is, then you don't have a scalable system. And so we need to fix this. You may need to launch a new channel. We may need to launch into a new niche. You'll need to fix this problem, right? Especially if, in order for you to get to your revenue goal that you're currently setting out, you need 6 new clients a month. So you ask yourself, is it predictable? Yes. So long as all these metrics are followed, I can tell my setter I need these metrics to be followed, right? Is it consistent? Has this happened for more than a couple months? Is it scalable? Can I just increase my inputs to then lead to more outputs? And is it profitable? How much does it cost me? And does my cost per acquisition end up making me money at the end of it? Okay, so that's with Instagram DMs. Now, running ads is pretty similar, so except it's with ad spend. So let's say you spend $50, you get a lead. And then let's say you have, out of those, every 1 lead, you get 25% that book a call. So then you have a $200 cost per booked call, right? And then you have a 80% show, 30% close, right? So then you spend $50, $200, 80% of them show, 30% close. Damn, what are the numbers on that? $200, 80% show, 5 people, 1,000, 80% of them actually show. So 10 people, 2,000. Oh my God, can't believe I can't do the numbers at the top of my head. But let's just say this ends up equaling 1,500 CPA. Okay. So let's say, so long as you get $50 leads, you have a 25% booking, you have a $200 cost per booked call, 80% show, and you close 30%, it costs you $1,500 to acquire customers. So you spend $4,500, you get 3 clients. So then the next month you spend $9K and you get 6 clients. Now you have a system that's predictable, it's consistent, it's profitable, and it's scalable. That's it. if you don't have your client acquisition department in this state, then this needs to be the department that you focus the majority of your attention on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean, sorry, that you don't put time aside to actually work on improving your product or service. I was constantly improving my product and service, and so should you. But what I mean is priority. Like if you had to split your time up, you'd put 70% into fixing the client acquisition problem and 30% into fixing your product, rather than just working the majority of time of fixing your product and putting no time aside to fixing your client acquisition issue. Okay. So now let's say you move on to department number 2, which is, client retention, results, etc. Right? So essentially success and happiness, right? The primary thing that there are like metrics which you can focus on that will tell you the big picture. They'll tell you the story. One of the primary metrics is churn rate. So what percentage of clients you lose, or in other words, retention. And then refunds, especially if you have a service with a guarantee. Okay. These are really the 2 primary metrics that will give you an indication on how good you are at delivering what it is that your clients expect of you to deliver. Churn rate, refund percentage, pretty much it. If you don't have refunds, then it's just churn rate. And so once you've developed a system where you're constantly getting clients in, I want you to picture a bucket. Oh, what kind of bucket is that? Let's picture a bucket over here. Okay. It's filled with water. You're constantly filling it with new clients, right? Then you have big hole. You have small holes. It's riddled with holes over here. This is what we call leakage, churn, leak, churn. These leaks are contributing to churn, okay? You're constantly now filling in new customers. Perfect. But now you're noticing as you're filling in new customers, people are complaining, they're churning, they're not renewing, and that's a problem. Let's say your churn rate, and you run an agency, your churn rate's like 30%, which is a pretty big churn rate. Now, when you have built this predictable system of getting customers, you should pretty much have that on autopilot. That's when you flip and you pretty much turn your mental energy into then perfecting your product, okay? Now you've gotten all these customers come in, you're getting this feedback, and then you start to make adjustments to perfecting your product. And here's essentially the idea that you want to have, okay? And I'll use the story of the tutoring center because it's really what made the biggest difference. When we first started working together, he had no idea about his numbers. He didn't know how many leads he was generating. He didn't know what his conversion rates between departments were, like what his cost per booked call was, what the show rate was, what the close rate was. He had no idea. So we fixed that up. And then before you know it, he is adding and signing on more students than he's ever done before. Okay. It was an explosion. I don't know what the number was, like double or triple the amount of new students as soon as that department got sorted. Then when I jumped on a call with him, he was like, Leo, man, I'm stressed. My churn rate's through the roof. Clients are canceling left, right, and center. I said, all right, great. Now that we've got department 1 sorted, let's start focusing on department 2 and fixing your churn rate issue. And I said to him, let's say the last 50 people who churned, why did they churn? What were the reasons and what were the percentages? What reasons contributed to what percentage? So if there were 6 primary reasons, I want to know reason number 1 contributed to 20%. Reason number 2 contributed to 30%. Reason number 3 was only 5%. And he's like, oh, I don't know. People just cancel. And I said, okay, we need to identify which holes in your bucket you've got, which ones are the biggest, so we know what to address. So I got him to go away, write down all the reasons that each person churned. And then when, okay, 50 people churned, these were all their reasons. There was like 6 or 7 primary reasons, and then label each one. And then he saw which percentage was contributing to what. And what we realized when we did that was that there was one primary churn reason that was actually contributing. It was like 40%. 40% of the people who canceled all had the same reason. So I said, that's what you're going to go focus on for the next 2 weeks. And that's exactly what he did. He went and built out a full system relating to that particular churn reason. And the next time we analyzed his churn rate, it was like non-existent. And his churn rate dropped. And that's what happens. You get rid of the reasons, and then suddenly your churn rate starts to go from 30% to sub 10%. It works like that. It's magical. Okay. So this is pretty much where you're going to be at. You're going to have people leaving, but you need to understand why people are leaving. Now, if you run an agency, typically it's going to be lead quality. Okay. For me, it was lead quality. Then we solved lead quality by starting to call our customers leads and qualifying them. Then it became because they weren't selling and closing deals. Then when they were selling and closing deals, it then became because they couldn't hire staff fast enough and they were at capacity. You need to identify what these churn reasons are. It could be because, you don't have great enough communication. It could be because, maybe there was unrealistic expectations. I remember there was a client of mine. I set no expectations in terms of reasonable ROI, and he'd never spend money on, online before to get customers. And we made him $700,000 in revenue in around 3 or 4 months. And his total investment with us was around like 20 grand or something like this. And he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. I could not understand it. I said, well, why aren't you happy? He's like, I don't see it like being a reason. It's like I spent 20 grand to get that. I'm like, what are you expecting as an ROI, brother? Like, what's the benchmark that you're using here? Oh, well, I use this platform that I spend 20 bucks a month on and I got a deal. And I'm like, yeah, but that was once off. This is completely different. He's like, I'm like, you had like 30% margins. You made like $210,000 and you only paid us 20 grand for it. It's like, yeah, it just feels like I'm spending too much money. I didn't set up any realistic expectations and we lost him. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. So moving forward, anytime I took on a new client, I'd ask them, what are you expecting as an ROI? And we'd arrive at a benchmark, and a reasonable benchmark would say a 10x ROI on revenue, 3x on profit. So you spent 10 grand, you made 30 grand in profit, and they were all happy with that. And I never dealt with that churn issue ever again. Okay. So that's just an example. That's just one example of a reason that we were experiencing churn that I solved. You need to identify what those reasons are, and then you actually get to work in your business, adjusting and fixing this particular churn reason. Now, churn depends on your industry. For an agency, you want to aim below 10%. And then say tutoring center, gyms, etc. If you're between 5 and 7%, you're doing something right. Anything sub 5 and you're killing it. So those are just some benchmarks for you. By the way, like 10% for an agency is not easy. Like this is you operating at a really, really high standard. Don't feel bad if you're at like 30 or 40%, especially when you're just starting out. That's like the long-term goal, but that's eventually really where you want to be. So after you've sorted out client acquisition, you start working on your product, you'll get to a point where you'll realize, all right, like now I've got this certain amount of clients on board. And at the pace that I'm going at, my churn rate is actually, starting to get fixed. My clients are happy. I don't have a high churn rate. I'm getting case studies. I'm getting testimonials. I'm getting reviews. Then you go to yourself, great, that's all sorted. I now want to scale. I now want to do more of that. And that's when you start scaling and making that life-changing money, right? So by this point, you may have went from say 10 to 50, 60, 70, 75, 100K a month. And now you're like, all right, now I want to scale beyond that. Like the tutoring center student, he got to that 70K mark and he's like, all right, now, like I've got bigger dreams. I want to do more than that. But the problem was, he ran into this issue, which is really where you start to spend the majority of your time. And that is systems of scale. Okay. He only had one sensor. He reached the cap. So for him, his systems of scale was pretty much either him going online or opening up another center, doing over and over and over again. And that's when you start focusing on systems of scale as a business. If you run an agency and you're getting customers and then you're retaining them, systems of scale is now doing just more of that. But now you need the systems in place to essentially handle that type of growth. So systems of scale is where you start putting your time into hiring, building leadership team, You're essentially getting yourself out of the business. You're hiring for a salesperson. You're hiring account managers. You're getting yourself out of the business. You're building leadership teams to start managing your staff, so you're no longer involved in the day-to-day operations. Actual systems, so automating things, making things more efficient. This is where you start to see a big return on fixing up your systems and making things more efficient, more automated. And depending on your business, this can mean very different things. In the agency space, it really typically is just a people issue. So hiring, building leadership teams, getting the systems. Sometimes this could actually be going across different niches because your total addressable market is completely capped out. So new niches, either you're going to go to a new niche offering the same thing, or you're going to sell more products, or it could be more products to your current niche. Either way, this could be from going from offering, for example, a done for you service, right, to then launching done with you, or do it yourself. So this could be going like online, but whatever it is, essentially you're now starting to deal with the limits of scaling. And that's where you start putting the majority of your effort on systems of scale. Now, I have been the entrepreneur who ran a business that didn't have its client acquisition and client retention sorted. And all I focused on was building systems of scale. I wanted to prepare for the future. And anytime I did that, I ended up building systems that when the future came, weren't actually applicable. So it was a total waste of time. Do not make the same mistake that I did. As tempting as it's going to be to try and, build your systems to hire the right people and build leaders within your business and build these, crazy automated systems, forget about all that. That is all a total waste of time. Okay. Thinking ahead, oh my God, like my total addressable market's not big enough. Don't worry about that. That'll come when it comes. The results will, the solutions will show themselves. Just make sure you've got your client acquisition sorted and then your client retention and results. And then you'll eventually be able to move over to working on your systems of scale. So I'm going to leave you with this. I want you to ask yourself, in your business, can you predictably, consistently, profitably, and at scale acquire customers every month? Meaning 1 month you can get 3 new clients and you do so profitably. Next month you can get 6. The month after that you can get 9. If the answer is no, that's what you should be focusing on. If the answer is yes, I'll then ask you, what is your churn percentage? What is your refund rate? And what are the reasons that people are churning? And how many of those reasons are actually contributing on a percentage scale, on a pie chart, to churn, right? And if you don't know those answers, then you need to go and figure them out. And then when you do identify what those reasons are and what's contributing, choose the one that's contributing to the most amount of churn and then start working to fix it. And when it gets fixed, then look for the next biggest hole in your bucket and fill that leak, and then just do it one at a time. And once you get to a point where you're predictably bringing on clients and your churn rate is at a low percentage, which is a reflection on the quality of your product and service, that means your product or service is great. Then you start moving on to working on your systems of scale. That's when you need to start thinking about how you're going to hire at scale, building leadership teams, building the right systems, thinking about your total addressable markets, potentially going into different niches and working on new products. You should not be operating here unless you've got department 1 and 2 all locked in. I hope you guys found this video valuable. I know I would have found it immensely valuable. It would have saved me a lot of time and money in my own journey. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below. If there's another video you want me to do, let me know. If there's something you want me to expand on, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.